Welcome to the Make It Happen podcast. My name is Justin Beaudry, and I'm here to introduce a new segment called How They Made It. And I'm here at Google I/O. And I'm here with Jeremy Schroeder. Jeremy is a local GDG Toledo and Toledo Codes organizer and a senior web developer at Touchstone Digital. And so how they made its goal is to talk about your journey from or into tech, in particular with folks around the Northwest Ohio region. So welcome, Jeremy. It's been super awesome being here at I/O with you.
Absolutely, the total dream come true to be here, at the heart of Google, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And so we've had a lot of exciting things happening today, but I really I thought it'd be fun to sort of kick off this segment here at Google at this event. And so, Jeremy, why don't you tell me a little bit about let's talk about your journey into tech. So, I know what's your early childhood like in terms of, did you have a computer when you were a kid?
Oh yeah, and I totally have to credit my dad, right? Because we did have a computer when I was a kid. So I was born early '80s, but the '90s, is really where I started to pick up computer skills, and it was a Tandy 1000, and so kind of PC DOS, I was playing DOS games, and I just remember early childhood was chock full of those books that you'd get from the library, and it's there's 20 basic games in there that you could write, and basically program it into BASIC and run them. Yeah.
So on the Tandy?
Yeah, on the Tandy. Yep.
Oh, interesting. Very cool. And so, you learned BASIC. Did you do any web development as a kid? Did you tinker at all with web?
So I remember Dreamweaver version 1.0.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And, I guess I was lucky to have some adults in my life that were also kind of in the tech scene. I remember a family friend actually gave me, a version of Adobe Dreamweaver 1.0 that I got to play around with. So yeah, I want to say I was 13 or 14 or something like that. And yeah, I was totally making websites back then. But that's the days of GeoCities, right?
Yeah.
So definitely was interested in tech all through my childhood, in fact, I even, after school, I started going to college as, computer science major. But, I had another love, graphic design, and I ended up, doing graphic design in college.
So graphic design won the war.
Yeah.
The battle, but not the war, right?
Maybe just, there's a lot of math, and they were teaching us C. And there's a little bit of a learning curve there, right?
Definitely,
compared to, but I never lost that love of tech, and specifically like the dream and the goal is to sometime retire and make video games, right? What kid doesn't playing video games? And back then, it just seemed so obtainable to be able to make them as well, and that was my early start.
We share the same dream.
Yeah.
And so I want to jump and talk to another really interesting portion of your life. And we'll skip ahead. And you're from a small town called Weston, Ohio.
Yep.
Right outside of Bowling Green. And you were the mayor in this town for 9-10 years or so?
Yeah, almost 10 years, 2 years as a council member, and the opportunity arose to run for mayor, and I won by a single vote, the first time that I served as mayor, and more handily, after that. But yeah, three-term mayor, and like I said, two years a council member under my belt, and that, I almost have to credit my dad and my brother there as well. My dad was a public servant, a firefighter, assistant chief, even when I was a kid, of the Weston EMS. And my brother was president of the Chamber of Commerce at 18, in Weston.
So it runs in the family.
It does, yeah. And I, I didn't get into the whole like EMS thing. It's not my thing. It may be a little too much blood. But yeah, I think that's like where the roots of like the public servant, came from, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Like it's hard to remember like exactly why I got into council, but really it's just a recognition of like you have to participate, in the community to build the community.
Yeah.
And it was a very rewarding thing, along the way.
So I think we'll come back to the community building aspect in a little bit.
Yeah.
But I want to touch on something else because we got here on your badge. We're at Google I/O.
Yes.
And we're both organizers of GDG Toledo, and you have a web framework that you built called Spaceport on top of Groovy, right?
Yeah, Groovy. My favorite language. It's kind of related. It's in the Java ecosystem, right? And I, in my late 20s, I wanted to pick up programming again. I remember that fondly from my childhood, right?
Yeah.
And I was still obviously doing very tech-related things.
So when was this that you first started building Spaceport?
Oh man, it must have been like 2012, 2014.
Okay. So nearly a decade then.
Yeah.
15 years or so.
Yeah. And so I actually started with my journey into Java with Minecraft. And so, it was...
Oh, that's right. I remember you telling me that.
It was just a little bit of, bonding with my son at the time. We were playing Minecraft.
Yeah, I love it.
And there were just avenues to make Minecraft plugins. And to do that, you use Java. And so it was just a series of clicks, as I built out my plugin of like understanding like the fundamentals of computer science, right?
Yeah.
And that turned into hey, how can I do this now, but in the real world, like outside of Minecraft.
Yeah.
And so my plugin that I made for Minecraft was like a huge thing. It was like kind of like a scripting language for Minecraft. And so there were just a ton of fundamentals that I learned, and it easily flipped into like a real world application, right? It's like, how do I do this scripting but in the real world? And yeah, that became what I call Spaceport these days.
Super cool. I'd love to dig deeper on it. I know we don't have a ton of time here today to talk about it, so I want to switch gears a little bit, and I want to talk about you and your son Ollie. You have a business together. It's called OJT Tech. Tell me a little bit about like what is OJT Tech, what's your business, and why you started it.
Yeah, well, it actually started as just like a way to get the basement clean, right? And so obviously, Ollie, my youngest, he inherited my tech genes. And so he had just kind of always been interested in computers. I have like some really cool pictures of him, like in diapers, like typing on a computer, and it just came so natural to him. And right around when he was 13, he said that he wanted to start a computer repair business. And so he had just completed a class in school. I guess that maybe would have been like 6th or 7th grade. And yeah, they did a class where they had to create a whole business and a business plan. And his business that he did with his group was called OJT Tech Repair. And so yeah, it was just him wanting to do that for real. And I told him that I would partner up with him and make it a real thing if he cleaned out the basement.
And so he cleaned out the basement.
He cleaned out the basement.
Hey.
And that week we were going to Home Depot and buying stuff to make benches, and the rest is history. I mean, we've gotten into not only computer repair, but also like server infrastructure. And it's just really valuable knowledge, for Ollie and myself. We complement each other very well. He's very good at soldering. I'm good at programming, and we both have an interest in like server infrastructure.
Yeah.
And so yeah, right now, I would say the business is fairly successful. He does maybe a service call a week, and yeah, we maintain some servers in a local data center.
Yeah.
Co-locate, and we also have
Those are the Pro Lions, right? You mentioned.
yeah. We got those off of like GovDeals, right? And so they're just we got a set of 13 servers retired from the state of Indiana for like $175, and I do not regret showing Ali GovDeals, but yeah, that was like our intro into server management.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And so you've got OJT Tech now. He's doing service calls a week. Where do you see OJT Tech growing? Where do you see it going from there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like the server infrastructure we have in place is like the real deal, right? I mean, I obviously there's the cloud, and there's CDNs and like all of that. We're not there, but like there's some serious like compute and infrastructure in what we put together, and we have even a few paying customers, that
including some you built a containerization system a deployment system for Spaceport, right?
Yeah.
On your on-prem infra, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, and so it all ties together, right? But absolutely, I see OJT Tech sticking around. I think Ali, wants to maintain that business, and maybe that's his after graduation business, right? So yeah, I mean, I see it sticking around, even if it's just Ali, kind of heading it up, in the next few years.
I love that. Yeah, I know we've had conversations about hosting some GPUs or TPUs in the local data center as well, so we can do some inference work. So
yeah.
I think it's an exciting future.
I think there's a lot of value in like local data.
I think so too.
Yeah.
In particular, with a lot of the data center discussions we've seen in our region,
obviously,
right?
it's a hot button topic, right?
Yeah,
and rightly so. I mean,
it's multifaceted. It's difficult to even talk about or reason about, really.
Right, but also like incredibly essential, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a winning future, for OJT Tech.
Love it. Okay, so let's move on to we talked a little bit about your early career. We've talked a bit about you and your son's business. So let's talk more about how you went from married to simultaneously working in graphic design to now being a senior web developer at Touchstone Digital.
Yeah, basically just the love of programming, right? I mean, I was fairly successful in my graphic design career. Like, it started as very entrepreneurial. I ran a screen printing shop for 5 or 6 years in Bowling Green, and then I had a family and had kids, and owning a business is a lot, and so I ended up getting a job at a place called Off Contact, where I worked there for 13 years, and eventually worked myself up into management, but made programming part of my job description, right? And so by the time I left Off Contact, maybe like 20% of the time I spent was coding, internal tools and workflows, and just kind of management of like our web identity and things like that. And so it was just growing as a passion, right?
Yeah.
Like that whole time.
So you grew it as a passion. And I remember I met you at was it the first Toledo Codes event, GDG Toledo event we did?
I think it was like in collaboration with AAF, right? And so
That's right.
And so it was like kind of a natural transition.
Yes.
Because I was going to an AAF event, and it was co-organized with Toledo Codes, GDG. It was our winter mixer in 2024, and I met so many incredible people like that day.
That's right. Yeah.
It was like that day I was telling people, it's like, I'm looking for a job. I'm looking to make a move. And yeah, I just, that was when I started networking.
Got it. So you that's right. So the winter mixer, we did the tech winter mixer. We had some tech and design folks there.
Yep.
AAF was there. Midstory was there.
Yeah.
Actual Reality was there. The company
Yep.
I work for.
Yep.
That's right. And that's where you met Val Thompson of AAF, right?
Well, I knew Val from previous business arrangements.
Okay,
Yep,
got it.
Yep. So Val used to work for ProMedica, obviously big name in Toledo.
Yes.
And at Offcon Tech, we were doing business with all the big names in Toledo. Like it's a very rewarding career. But that is how I met Val, and actually it was an event that Keith Instone put together. The laws of UX. John Yablonsky or something like that.
That's right. I wasn't able to make it to that. And,
Yeah.
and you and Val were sitting next to each other,
Yes,
right?
yeah. And I had just mentioned to Val, because I don't think I got a chance to mingle with her at the mixer, and this was several months later. But I had mentioned to Val that I'm looking for a job, and she initially assumed like it was in the graphic industry, but I'm like, no, actually, I'm trying to transition to tech. And Val had just started working for Mad Ave Group, specifically one of our agencies called Mad Ave Collective, which does advertising work for nonprofits. And it immediately clicked that she had heard something somewhere about they were looking for another developer, and she had told me, "Hey, send me your resume." And so I sent her my resume, and just a few days later, like she texted me and was like, there's a serious opportunity here, but there were like plenty of networking opportunities like between then and there as well. And I met like Don Miller, which also played a role into to then transitioning into to Touchstone Digital under Mad Ave Group.
Very cool. So, this journey was, 40-something years in the making where, you end up at Touchstone Digital, and spoiler alert, you got the job.
I got the job, yeah.
And you've been working in tech for close to a year now, right?
Yeah, just under a year. So June, the very beginning of June. So just coming up, that will be my 1 year.
Congratulations to 1 year working in tech. And I got to be sensitive to time here. So, I think thank you for sharing your story and your journey. I think we could talk about this for hours.
Absolutely.
We only have a short amount of time here, so this is really just an intro piece. We'll likely have a longer story on this. So, I wanted to come back to, we talked about community building earlier. You mentioned mayoral. We're both in the community building right now with Total Codes and GDG Toledo and AI Collective Toledo. And so why, you've got your job in tech already.
Yep.
Why are you still involved in community building?
It's just fundamental to my character, right? I spent 10 years literally building community in Weston, and I just understand how important that is for people to step up into that role and like to just do those things.
Yeah.
And it's no different, in like the tech scene in Toledo, right?
Yeah.
Like we have, probably hundreds of tech professionals, right? But there's a very small sliver of them that are willing or able to step up and make sure that we're thinking collectively and helping each other grow. And so I don't know, it just seemed like a natural fit. I at the same time I was transitioning away from being mayor. Being mayor took up a lot of time, and I was grateful for that opportunity, but I just decided it was time to move on. And so it fortunately left a gap of time and my ability to commit, and honestly, yourself and Mike Vanderpool and Greg Miller, like, you guys are all cool people, right? And so it's also just fun to hang out with you guys, and in the meantime, build community.
Right back at you. Well, we just got our 1 minute, so we're going to wrap up.
Yeah.
Jeremy, it's a pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see what we're going to do in the future. My name's Justin Beaudry. This is Make It Happen, and this was How They Made It. Thank you.